Chapter 13 begins with the middle and the passive of the imperfect. And as always, we start off with some vocabulary. And I will be doing that card in the homework section. Notice we do have one preposition here. And now we're going to take a look at the personal endings of the middle and the passive. In the singular, you've got main, saw, ta, and the plural, you have metha, sle, nta. When we conjugate them with a verb, the middle and passive, they're going to look exactly the same. In this one, in the middle, take a look at the translation there. For example, the first person singular, I was loosing myself, or the second person singular, you were loosing yourself, he was loosing himself, etc. We're just going to pop down to the passive definitions. I was being loosed, you were being loosed, he was being loosed. So let's go back up to the middle and we're going to take a closer look at this. If you look at the second person singular, where we have that main saw, ta, the epsilon, sigma, omicron, that sigma is going to drop out. And so that epsilon, omicron contract to omicron, upsilon. Now, if you were just memorizing the endings of words, you would think, oh, that's a genitive. However, this is a verb. This is not a noun or a substantive. So this is where your vocabulary kind of comes in. You have to know that luo is a verb. Again, we have the thematic vowel. Take a look at the accent in the first person singular. It is over the omicron as well as in the first person plural. Otherwise, it is over the upsilon in the other four. So take a notice of that. And again, the augment is there because this is the imperfect. And again, the form of this word, it's the same as the middle. And we're going to take a look at our cards in just a second. Accent is over the omicron in the first person singular and plural. Otherwise, it is over the upsilon. Now in number 84, he is suggesting that we review the present indicative active, middle and passive, and then the imperfect active. So we're just going to take a look at some cards really quickly. So in the, we're going to do let's do the present first. In the present active, we have that o, ace, a, omen, ete, usi. And that's the active voice. And the middle and the passive are, again, the same. I've got both cards here. That's that my, psi, tai, methasle, ntai. And again, disclaimer, psi is going to turn into an eta with a iota subscript. So that was the present. And we have our imperfect cards. We have the epsilon in front of a consonantal word. And then we have that on, s, e, omen, ete, on for the active. For example, I was washing, you were washing, he was washing. And then in the middle and passive, we have main, saw, ta, methasle, nta. Now again, that second person singular, there's a little bit of a change because we don't have the sigma here. And then that passive card, the forms are the same, but I did write out the translation there. And so when you have all of these cards, it'll be a good reference to just have them all together. Flipping back to the textbook, just a couple of things to kind of wrap up some of the verbs that we have been working with. The personal endings of the verb have to express the person, the number, and the voice. So everything that has to do with the subject can be expressed in the verb. In the indicative, they tell whether it's primary or secondary. Don't worry about that too much right now. We'll kind of come back to that later. Here's kind of where we want to hammer in that we have to master these endings. If you can do that, you will be able to get through most of the verb forms in the New Testament. These are for regular verbs. You're going to come across some irregular verbs later, but for the regular verb, this is the majority of the stuff that we're going to need to know. Number 86, looks like we've got a preposition listed here, hupo. Kind of think like hypo, you know, in English. So we've got hupo. It's used with the ablative case to denote the agent by, especially when you're in the passive voice. And there is an example here that we've got, they were being baptized by John, and the hupo is translated by in this, and it's in the ablative case. And that brings us right to the exercise. We're doing the imperfect, middle, and passive, and after we get over this hurdle, we will have gotten through the majority of the regular verb stuff that we're going to need to know.